Yo, welcome to Spectator Sporting. I'm Zach Roach along with my partner, Mr. Adi Wally. We talking boxing. If you know we talking, we got my man Byron in the building to come school y'all on what this boxing really is. We talked about in the previous show Bud Crawford and Madrimov. But the undercard was one of the greatest undercards you will ever see. And this undercard is going to set up a lot of future fights of all these guys. Isaac Cruz fought Jose Velanzuela, won the fight in a split decision. Andy Ruiz and Jarrell Miller had a draw. David Morrell, a 12th round unanimous victory over Hot Rod. Jared Anderson got knocked out in the 5th round by Bakole. Andy Cruz with a 7th round knockout. Adi. These were some great fights. Give me a fight that you thought was interesting and really caught your attention.
Yeah, you know what? The rising Cuban star, Andy Cruz, continues to live up to the hype versus a tough Antonio Moran. He had already 37 professional fights, 30 wins, and he had a 3-inch height advantage over him. Now, in the 4th round, Antonio Moran, he rocked Andy Cruz with a solid left hook. Wobbled Andy Cruz, okay, but he would recover nicely. In the 7th round, he rocked my man Antonio Moran with a huge right hook, and then he hit him with another one, and then Antonio Moran stumbles into the ropes, and he tries to gather himself, but then he stumbled all the way into the other side of the ring in the corner, and the ref jumped in, stopped the fight, TKO. Andy Cruz, he's on his way to a title fight very quickly, under 10 fights, but still this guy has an amateur career that is legendary, okay? So he's on his way. And I would like to see Andy Cruz, I would like to see him fight the #2 WBC and WBO contender, the 21-0, my man Raymond Danger Maratula, okay? Or Frank the Ghost Martin, okay? And so, I would like to see Andy Cruz fight. Well, he just need to get one of those top 10 dudes under his belt, get a victory over a top 10 guy. You know, you got Lomachenko. He's a great example of a guy that had a great amateur career, came into the professional ranks. I believe he got a title fight in his 3rd fight. He got a title by his 3rd or 4th fight. He already had a title, okay? And so I think Andy Cruz needs to follow those footsteps. He's ready. He's about to be, he's 28 years old. This guy's, he's ready to fight. But I just think he needs like one more fight in the top 10, and then about 2025 sometime, he can fight one of these guys with a title.
Absolutely, Andy Cruz, very, very impressive. Okay. Brian, what fight did you find interesting? What were you was like? Oh,
I had two fights. Okay, you know, it was just not. It was one, but I really felt like this was going to be an undercard where the American heavyweight division was kind of presented. You know, it wasn't in the co-main, but it was like 2 fights back to back, and man, the American heavyweight division hold this L. Jared Anderson versus Martin Bakole. I did not see that coming.
I don't think nobody saw that coming.
It was, you know, Jared Anderson, 17-0. I was very high on him, you know, kind of separating himself from the pack. Never really was a big Jarrell Miller, you know, I did kind of want to see the battle with the big babies before Saturday night, but after Saturday night, I don't want to see it. But Jared Anderson was just, I will give him this. It was one of the most exciting fights on the card for while it lasted.
Definitely.
I think Jared Anderson discovered very early that Martin Bakole's power was George Foremanist. This man was throwing, I mean, he was the embodiment of George Foreman. The arm punches, the basically no defense, just basically sitting there and trying to aim and catch you with big shots. Every time he landed a jab on Jared Anderson, the back of his head was in the front row. Luckily, nobody was sitting there at that time. Man. But it's like every time he got hit, it was, you know, earth-shattering.
Yeah.
But Jared Anderson stayed in the pocket. Jared Anderson continued to throw shots. And I still want to see Jared Anderson. You know, I don't think I'm not under the thinking that a loss totally derails your career, but as far as the heavyweight division, I can see that the American heavyweight division is a lot far back than we thought it was. Yeah. And Martin Bakole, I can't wait to see him on the big stage because, you know, Fury probably has a year left. Usyk is probably right behind him.
Bakole's only 31 years old.
And right, he's only 31 years old. He's 21-1. And we're kind of like seeing the heavyweight division kind of shift. We know Anthony Joshua is going to be a big name, but imagine him fighting somebody like this. Mm-hmm. And so, again, the heavyweight division, still alive and well, still pumping, but unfortunately, it's probably still overseas.
Well, I would say one thing that scared me about Jared Anderson, it was a year ago. They interviewed, he was getting a pep talk from Roy Jones Jr. And Roy Jones Jr. told him, you'll let a lot of people down right now if you quit. And Jared Anderson was crying and stuff and everything. And like it's like Roy Jones Jr. had to convince him not to quit and to stay passionate about the game of boxing. And, I mean, about boxing and everything. And so I was looking at it like, man,
You think his heart wasn't in it? Is that what you think?
Yeah, he was crying and he had to convince him to not quit and all that. So, that little interview went, little speech, pep talk went viral and everything. But I was looking at it like, man, I don't know if he really got it in him. So, we'll see.
And I think this fight, again, we were talking about Bud Crawford and Madrimov. This is how you should go out. I think he kind of saw that I'm outmatched. Yeah. But he still was in the pocket. He still was, I just wish he would have boxed a little better. Mm-hmm. But kudos to you by facing his head on, not cowering. Like, if you're going to beat me, knock me out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'll give him credit with that. I actually didn't see the Roy Jones interview. I'm kind of glad I didn't because I would have judged him a little bit more. But, again, I didn't like his post-fight speech. I didn't. I kind of felt like, he was just talking about, I just want to get back to my family. And it wasn't like getting back on a horse, getting better, and trying to get back at this guy. And I can't help but to think like, man, coming into this pay-per-view, I had so much hope for the heavyweight division as far as America is concerned. Yeah. And now it's look like it's still overseas. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the fight that everyone is talking about, Jose Valenzuela upsetting Isaac Cruz.
Ooh, that was a big upset.
And let me tell you, I don't know who that judge is that had Pitbull winning that fight. Yeah. But your grandmother, dude. Like, come on. How could you have Pitbull Cruz? Like, that was such epic boxing. Yeah. That was a boxing clinic. And if you don't know anything about Rayo, just look up his whole Chris Colbert situation where he lost the unanimous decision, and he definitely got reffed out. It was a horrible decision. Fought the guy again, and in the build-up, they made a bet. He told him, "I'm gonna knock you out," and they shook hands and made a bet, and then he went out and he knocked out Chris Colbert. And from there, he comes into this fight where he says he felt disrespected. He fought this fight for his parents. And when I tell you, he might have exposed Pitbull Cruz at 140. Yeah. Because I've never seen him so small. Pitbull Cruz has a fighting style where he's so tenacious, he's so aggressive. You see his size as more of an advantage. Yeah. But in that fight, I mean, he was little brother in him. Like, he was like, no, eat this jab, back up. Get back. And it was even though Pitbull Cruz did have flashes.
He started good.
He
started good.
He definitely was smothering, but it was just like he had a game plan. You could tell, like, when his aggressiveness, I'm gonna roll off of him. And when I roll off of him, I'm gonna punish him with a shot. And it was like he had in his mind, like, this is how I'm gonna beat him. And he stuck to that plan. He had little flashes where he kind of got off and they had exchanges. But I thought it was an absolute boxing clinic. It was one of my favorite fights of the undercard. Yeah. And I thought it was highly competitive, but it was also, I kind of slept on his story because I remember the whole Chris Colbert, but it's just like, I just didn't think nobody was beating Cruz. The way Cruz been fighting, the way he's been, competitive even after the Tank loss, I just didn't see him losing. So that was definitely like the shock of the night But those two fights definitely stood out.
And Tank Davis, his plans are derailed. He tried to fight Lomachenko, so Lomachenko says he doesn't want to fight, and then you think, okay, he'll fight when Pitbull Cruz knocks out Rayo. He'll fight Pitbull, give him the rematch, since that was a close fight.
Not be surprised
if
Rayo gets an offer from the heavens, because Little Tank don't want no smoke with Shakur. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. I know you Tank fans is finna run. Y'all gonna run to the comment section. Man, big dude don't know what he's talking about. But he don't want to send no offer. He doesn't want to send Shakur is starting fights in the stands. Shakur is available. Lomo doesn't want to fight you to 2025. Why is this a head scratcher? Why are we waiting for a contract to be signed? It's because you don't want to fight him. But I guarantee you, Tank will want to fight Jose Valenzuela for the simple fact that Tank sees a lot of things that he does wrong that he can capitalize on. So when one blessing door closes, another one opens. So and I truly feel like Tank is, for some odd reason, is willing to go to 140 and fight a champion that he feels he can beat. Now, does he want to stay at 140? No, I don't think he does. I think he goes back to 135. But as far as this year, I think he will fight Jose Valenzuela. I really do.
Yeah. I don't think he's scared of Shakur Stevenson.
I'm not buying it.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing. You're not scared of Shakur Stevenson, right? The Lomo fight is the most lucrative fight. I totally agree. You don't think about Shakur if that fight is on the table.
Right. Facts.
Lomo don't want to fight you. You know, I alluded here on this show that everybody's saying Lomo versus Tank next. Does Lomo want to fight Tank? And Lomo has said, I don't want to fight in 2024. So what does Tank do? Another layoff? I don't think that's wise. I don't think another layoff is wise. I think Tank needs to fight in the fourth quarter of this year. You know, he needs to fight October, November. He has the name, he has the venue. You said that you want to get the belts at 135. There's a 135-pound champion with a belt who wants to fight you. I mean, everybody has their different definition and interpretation of fear.
He has no reason to be afraid.
I don't think he's scared of.
Why are we not talking about that?
There's no reason to.
Why are we not talking about that?
But maybe because Shakur, his fan base, he needs to have an exciting fight. This man, Shakur Stevenson, he against Artem Harutyunyan. Yeah. He was talking all this stuff about Frank Martin because Frank Martin had trouble with him. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, you finna whip his ass. He go in there, he just not throwing punches, not throwing the counter punches. He needs to counter punch more.
Even Bud Crawford told him after the fight, they showed him, you gotta let your hands go.
And I get all of that. So are we sitting at this table saying that Shakur Stevenson can't be competitive in a fight against Tank? Because we always talk about styles make fights, and we always talk about, you know, and this is more off the screen, which I really want us to record because you guys will love our off the screen talks. Yeah. But Shakur has a style that complements an aggressive fighter. And again, you might be on the side that's a good point. Byron, you're stupid. Tank wins this fight, or I think Shakur. This is what boxing is for. Why aren't these two champions at 135 on the collision course? Because regardless of who sells, regardless of this guy's boring and I don't like him, both of them got belts. Both of them at 135. That's the division that Tank wants to be in. Why the hell are we not talking about that fight? And I don't care about the whole, you know, who's gonna sell too. If you are the face of boxing, you can sell against anybody you fight. Shout out to Canelo, who's fighting janitors, and he's still getting money. So if you're the face of boxing, you fight a champion in a division that you're the face of boxing, but you're not the face of your division. Change that by getting more belts than the people in your division. Shakur Stevenson is available. Fight.
Okay, I can see that, but I'm not buying that. He's scared of him. Like, don't get me wrong, and I'm not knocking Shakur. Shakur got skill, but I don't think Tank is scared of him. Another fight, real quick before we go. We watched the fight. I want to know Byron, because Byron, Andy Ruiz and Jarrell Miller, was that really a draw? Was I tweaking? I feel like Jarrell Miller won that fight. Am I tweaking?
When that fight was announced a draw, I laughed so hard.
I'm laughing now.
And the reason why I laughed is because Jarrell Miller has nobody to thank but himself for that decision.
Okay.
This man, in the first half of that fight, literally walked down Andy Ruiz. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't sneeze. He didn't pinch the bit. He just walked toward him.
Okay.
And did nothing. Andy Ruiz looked like he broke his hand in the 5th round. And the only reason why that fight got to the 12th was because of the inactivity of Jarrell Miller, who, with his weight, had a very low output. And when he did throw combinations, he was successful. When he did, you know, trying to go to the body, he was successful. But he did not have enough work to win that fight. And I think when you have a fight like that and you have that activity, you should have a decision taken away from you. And I felt like the boxing gods, and again, the decision was egregious, but the judges were bad all night. So it wasn't just one fight where they were bad. They were bad all night.
You kind of, yeah.
But Jarrell Miller basically made me never want to see him in a ring.
Damn.
Because if you're gonna fight a fight where I'm just being honest. You're fighting a guy with a broken hand.
Yeah.
Andy Ruiz broke his hand in the 5th. He actually took off the glove and showed my hand is broke.
He did.
How are you in a competitive fight with a man with a broken hand?
Well, look, you're being too harsh on Jarrell.
I don't think so.
You know, I gave the first 3 rounds to Andy Ruiz. You know, me and Roach was watching the fight. You know what I'm saying? 4th round was like a toss-up. After that,
I felt like he won every round.
Jarrell Miller was stalking him. He controlled the fight. He was hit him in the body. He was trapping Ruiz in the corner on the ropes, throwing those punches. Ruiz, after the fight, revealed that his hand was broke, but, you know, that's part of the game. And I had Jarrell Miller win that fight 116, 112. I think he got robbed. The man got robbed. He won that fight.
He got robbed too.
It was a lot of inactivity in that fight.
But
I don't understand where y'all, like, there was a lot of chance. Even before the fight, Sean Porter said this. He said, there's a lot of talking from Jarrell Miller. He said he was going to knock out Andy Ruiz, right? He did say that. He said he was going to knock out Andy Ruiz. He had plenty of opportunity to knock out Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, well.
And although Andy is very tough, and we said that, I call him the gatekeeper of the American heavyweights. He did not do enough. There was no sustained offense. There were, you know, he had offense, he had good rounds, but it wasn't sustained.
Yeah.
You actually had in the championship rounds where on his back foot with a broke hand, Andy Ruiz was landing more shots. Like, come on. Like, I didn't go through the copy box of that fight because that was kind of like my joke fight of the night. Mm-hmm. You know, they could have definitely kept that off the card, but yeah, like Jarrell Miller he didn't have any output whatsoever. Like, he didn't look good as a heavyweight.
Well, to Byron's point, I will say this. Watching the fight, you can tell by like the 7th, 8th round, both fighters
were tired.
Were gassed.
Yeah.
I mean,
the output did this. And the soft belly Ruiz is the worst Ruiz. When Andy Ruiz is dedicated in his camps and he comes in shape, man,
good point.
That's the
second highest weight.
Right, that's his second highest weight. Yeah. But to him, to his credit, he claims that he did it on purpose because he knew Jarrell Miller was gonna come in over 300 pounds. Mm. But my thing is, don't come in shape so that you can outlast him, because we know you can punch for 12 rounds. We know you can keep up the consistency for 12 rounds. Yeah. But instead, you make yourself a jelly bean going against a bigger jelly bean. And in the later stages of that fight, it really was a toss-up. It was no sustained offense. And that's what I'm saying. It's not so much that we're talking about, do you want to see Jarrell Miller on a pay-per-view?
I mean, I think he
against who? Against who?
Shit, I mean,
you want to see him against Jared Anderson on a pay-per-view? You want to pay $49 to watch him fight on a pay-per-view?
I was disappointed in Andy Ruiz. I thought he'd fight better, but he had the broken hand. Okay, but Jarrell Miller, he deserves a rematch. He deserves a rematch.
I thought everything you got good points what you bringing up, Brian. But I still feel like Jarrell Miller should have won the fight.
I don't want to say that fight.
Yeah, I think he got robbed.
I'm not saying he didn't get robbed. I felt like he earned what he put out there.
But David Morrell.
That's where I was going next. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, David Morrell's KO streak was supposed, it was snapped.
Yeah.
Okay, it was snapped, but that's what happens when you move up in the weight class, moved up to the light heavyweight division. Okay, but same thing happened to Bud Crawford. He moved up in weight, knockout streak snapped. Okay,
Yep.
but going against a good gatekeeper in Hot Rod, that was a good test. All right, Morrell nearly knocked him out in the 8th round of that fight. Okay, and now you got Dimitri Bivol versus Alter Beterbiev. That's going down on October the 12th for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world. David, the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, is trying to fight the winner of that fight. Okay, so David Morrell, he's going to have to wait a little bit.
Is he? I think he's the mandatory for that.
David Benavidez.
For the winner of that fight.
Yeah, so Benavidez is going for the winner of that fight, okay? And so I feel like David Morrell, in the meantime, he should fight the winner of Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Braveheart Hutchison, okay? Now, Buatsi is from Ghana. He's the favorite in that fight. He's the #1 WBC and WBO contender. He's 18-0. He's 31 years old. I think that'll be a good fight for David Morrell. And to fight a top 10 guy, get your name out there, elevate even more, and then once we'll see when the smoke clears with all this Bivol versus Beterbiev and Benavidez, and then Morrell can come up in there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, either way, very good fight card. Very good fight. Make sure y'all go on Spectator Sporting, go to the YouTube page, subscribe to that page. Appreciate all the comments, appreciate all the love and the hate and the disagreements. We love it all. I'm Zach Rosen. I'm my partner, Mr. Adi Wally, our boxing guru, Mr. Byrne. Also, don't forget, you can go on Spotify and go on Spectator Sporting to check us out. In the meantime, in between time, we out. Peace.